Bajaj. Dr. Bajaj.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Dr. Pulkit Bajaj. Can you see us, hear us?
Yes, sir.
Can you see me? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
sir, I can. Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. So, Dr. Bajaj, where are you based at right now?
So I'm in Delhi.
You are in Delhi.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you are a medical doctor and trying to get into civil services.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and but then having studied medicine, which is a very important profession for the country, why do you want to, waste your energies in civil service?
So my primary motivation to join medical service was to serve the public. And I just consider this doing my primary aim in a different direction and on a wider canvas, and more diversity of challenges is something that I am encouraged by.
So, who is your role model?
So in this expedition, I currently have no role models and I try to take positives from every person I can find.
But how do you know that you are going to face diversities and challenges once you join civil service, which are not there in your medical profession?
So if I'm in medical service, and I agree that it is a noble profession and I can serve the public in my capacity as well, but it will be in a single dimension, that is healthcare, and on a hyper local level, for example, in a government hospital. But if I am posted in as a civil servant and in whatever department I'm posted in, I will be able to work in different fields as well as on a wider scale also.
Okay. Now, Dr. Bajaj, tell me, it appears you have taken 8 years to complete medicine. Your interviews in 2014 and medicine in 2022. Why such a long time?
So I joined MBBS in 2016. I completed it in the right time, but I joined late.
But why? What made you join late?
Sir, I was preparing for the entrance exam.
Oh, I see. So you didn't get in the first attempt, is it?
Yes, sir.
So did you pursue your undergraduate course somewhere?
No, sir.
No. Okay. So you are bent upon joining the medicine course. All right. All right. Now, tell me, you also did some attachment in Japan, but were you allowed to practice in Japan as Indian MBBS doctor?
Sir, I didn't go in my capacity as a doctor. I went as a student when I was in school. It was as a part of a group.
Okay. So what is the theme?
Sir, the theme was it was a Japanese government program called Genesis, where they invited students from other from Southeast Asian nations for exchange of ideas as well as experiences.
So tell me about one idea or experience that you have gained after visiting Japan.
So the main idea about Japanese culture that actually had an effect on me was that the work culture is not very hierarchical. Although yes, there is a hierarchy in workplace, but the level of teamwork that they show in their working, I think, is unparalleled around the world, which eventually leads to better results and less conflicts inside an organization.
Okay. Now let's come back to Delhi, your place where you are located. There seems to be, a lot of air pollution in Delhi. Can you tell me the reasons therefore? And if you were to become a central pollution control board regulator, how will you address the issue?
So the main reason, according to experts and studies, is vehicular pollution. The other reasons include stubble burning, construction activities, weather-related phenomena, as well as industrial emissions. If I am made responsible for the same, I would like to target vehicular emissions first because they form the major chunk. And it has been shown by this State Pollution Control Board that 78% of vehicles that ply from National Capital Region to the NCT of Delhi only do so for supplying certain goods, and eventually they leave the NCT but add to the vehicular pollution. There has been a suggestion that these trucks and other vehicles will be docked at the borders themselves, and the goods will be taken by inlet by domestic vehicles which are eco-friendly in nature. I think that is number one. Number two, I would also like to pursue an EV manufacturing policy where awareness and making EVs come to the hearts and minds of the people is important. The Delhi government's EV policy currently is a 3I policy: innovation, inclusion, and incentivization. And I would like to take that further. Also, I would like to increase the fuel efficiency of vehicles by mandating BS6 vehicles at an earlier stage than they are currently done. To tackle other factors, I would like to coordinate with the governments of Rajasthan, UP, and Haryana and Punjab to control stubble burning and provide planters with a different alternative to it. And to control construction activities, I would like to focus on developing new materials for construction, which are eco-friendly in nature, as well as new techniques of construction. And for that, participation of the concrete as well as cement industry is a must.
Okay, good. Now, before I pass on to my co-panelist, tell me what is meant by crosspathy?
So can you please repeat your question?
Crosspathy.
So crosspathy, or sometimes as it is called mixopathy, means when certain physicians of different schools of medicine, apart from allopathy, do practice certain amount of allopathy in their practice, mixing it with other schools of medicine like Ayurveda or Unani.
Now, considering the fact that many allopathic doctors are not willing to go and work in rural areas of the country, do you think that we should allow Ayurvedic and homeopathic doctors to also practice allopathy?
So for that particular reason and for that particular cause, I believe that a bridge course would be required. And although yes, we should provide these doctors and the patients also with the opportunity to get healthcare, but there has to be a proper bridge course which teaches the doctors basic medicine and principles of allopathic practice. And not only that, there has to be regulation as well, because there has to be seen that the doctors who are practicing the non-allopathic trained doctors who are practicing do not step out of their bounds, because allopathy also requires a large number of years to perfect, and a bridge course cannot hope to do that in its entirety. But yes, I think it is a positive measure.
Okay, thank you. Edgaru.
Mr. Pulkit Bajaj.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can. Good morning, sir.
Morning, how are you?
I'm fine, sir. Thank you.
Okay. You are a doctor and you also opted medical science as your optional.
Yes, sir.
You must be very good in your medical studies, in fact. Otherwise, it's a tough subject, isn't it?
Sir, that is something I've studied for the last 6 years, and I also had to write the NEET PG examination, so that seemed like a natural choice for me.
Okay. What is the difference between emergencies and casualties?
Sir, it is, as when we talk about organization, hospital organization, casualty is the first point of contact which a patient in an emergency who faces. And emergency refers to a specific branch of medicine, which is emergency medicine, which is a step up from that casualty. A casualty is manned by medical officers with a basic MBBS degree, whereas emergency services are manned by specialists who are trained either in medicine, surgery, or emergency medicine.
Good. What is the difference between antibiotics, probiotics, and xenobiotics?
So antibiotics are synthetic or semi-synthetic compounds that are in it, as the name suggests, able to tackle biological agents. Probiotics are samples of the good bacteria that are present in our gut, which are essential for working of our gastrointestinal system. And so xenobiotics is study of combining of materials from different species and giving them a certain phase where they can be used in humans for benefit.
When do you administer antibiotic? When do you administer probiotic in a patient?
Sir, an antibiotic is given when there is a confirmation that the disease or the affliction is caused by a bacterial agent and not before that. A probiotic is administered in patients who have gastrointestinal complaints, for example, diarrhea or jaundice, to replenish the good bacteria. And they're often also given with antibiotics, since antibiotics can kill the good bacteria in our body.
Will the antibiotics also helpful in viral attacks?
So, not directly, no, they are not acting on viruses.
Okay.
But studies have shown that viral infections do cause a propensity to turn into secondary bacterial infections. So certain practitioners do practice this, where they administer antibiotics after a certain point in the disease course.
Can you tell me one case in your during your internship where you successfully managed?
So during my internship, one case that I do remember is a patient who had come with altered sensorium to our hospital in the casualty, and the patient was not in his senses insofar as he could not coherently speak or and was not oriented. In that case, we did order a number of tests, for example, routine blood tests and a CT scan of the head. But eventually, looking at the old age of that patient and the acute history of disease, I advised for taking sure that the serum electrolyte levels are seen first, because in old patients, I had read that sodium, when it goes low in the body, that is the most common cause of altered sensorium and being disoriented. And eventually it turned out to be that only.
Say you got selected and you posted in health department to highest position. If you reach, let us say, if you receive complaints that the corporate hospitals are looting people and getting unnecessary tests done for them, what you will do?
So I would like to work along with the NMC and the IMA, and I would like to institute social as well as proprietary audits so that we can make a cross-agency team of specialist doctors, including physicians from the representatives from IMA, NMC, and the health department, to look into the fact that if such things are happening where unnecessary tests are being prescribed, such hospitals do face a punitive damage. And also, as a long-term measure, I would like to institute medical ethics as a part of first year in MBBS, which is currently not there, so that this situation is alleviated in the future on its own.
Okay. Let us take up a case where, when you are going for your interview, let us say, you find on roadside some accident, somebody is dying, and you are running short of time for your interview. What you will do?
So I would definitely stop on the way and try to contact emergency services if it hasn't been done. I would first see what injuries the patient might have, because if it is a spinal injury, we do not move the patient because that can aggravate it. And I would wait for, if the patient is not responding, I would like to perform CPR in that case. And and I would wait till the emergency services come and take over for me. Insofar as my interview is concerned, I cannot let anything come in the way of my Hippocratic oath and my primary oath as a physician. Also, I will also be ethically sound that I might or might not succeed in this interview, but that patient might or might not die if I am not giving help at the right moment. And even if I am late, I hope that the commission will accept my reason that I stopped to help a man and save his life, and permit me to go about my interview as was scheduled before.
Okay, good. I saw in your hobbies watching and playing cricket and watching and playing football. What is your experience in football and how it influenced you in your personality?
Sir, I started watching football in 2004 as a regular hobby, and I played even before that. As a part of my personality development, it has taught me a thing that I can never forget in my life. It taught me that inaction and being stationary are two different things, because being stationary is that you are at one place at one time and you are not doing anything, but inaction can be temporary and momentary. So we should not confuse inaction with stationary. Secondly, it taught me the importance of teamwork, where every part of a machine has to work in its full capacity for the entire team to succeed, and also showed me the importance of leadership, because poor leadership can lead to disastrous decisions and can eventually lead to failure of the entire team, no matter how good one person might or might not be.
Okay. How do you think playing of football will help you in developing skills which are required for an administrator?
So, from playing football as an administrator, I would like to uh, display my teamwork, my leadership capabilities, my ability to listen to all parties. And from a coaching point of view, a coach sees the field in its entirety and can play the long game, whereas members of a team might be able to only see in the short term. And a person who has a bird's eye vision and can see everything can make a better decision. So that is something I would like to take away from my hobby.
Okay. How do you balance your hobby, either cricket or football, with your professional responsibilities?
So now I only play it for 1.5 hours or 2 hours on my weekends when I have an off. Otherwise, I have very little time as it is. But it is not an excuse. It is also that the tiredness after working 10 hours a day also takes a toll on my body. So I have lessened it, but I have not quit it all the same.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Vivek Garu.
Yes, Dr. Pulkit, good to see you here.
Thank you, sir.
Now, among your interests, you mentioned you watch web series on historical events.
Yes, sir.
What is that latest one that you have seen? Would you like to share with us?
Sir, the latest one I have seen is a web series depicting the fall of Constantinople and the victory of Mehmed the Conqueror over Constantine the Great.
Okay. So, what is the takeaway from that? Watching that, series or particular episode?
Sir, not commenting on the brutality of war as a whole, the takeaways can be there from both sides. From the side of Emperor Constantine, we can see that courage can only be seen in the eyes of death and the eyes of hardship, and courage cannot be seen otherwise. Courage is an essential quality for a leader that can not only empower his comrades but can also leave a lasting legacy. From the side of Mehmed the Conqueror, we can see that patience in leadership is also a virtue, where more than 15 invasions of Constantinople had failed before his time. He still bided his time and kept his patience, did not act rashly to achieve his ultimate goal.
It is generally said history teaches us lessons. Do you agree with that?
So yes, sir, I do believe that history teaches us lessons, and if we do not learn from it, we are doomed to repeat it.
I see. Can you give me an example of Indian context?
So India from its even just after independence, we learned that taking a side in the global geopolitics could hurt our interests, as it did in many countries in World War I and especially in World War II. So we adopted a non-alignment policy. Secondly, we also saw that in 1991 we had to do reforms to open up our economy, because we saw how a closed economy led to the collapse of communist governments in Eastern Europe as a whole. And we also saw that the primacy given to the military forces instead of the civilian government, and a rise in fundamentalism in Pakistan led to its downfall. We are also on our way to correct that.
But tell me, can history be taught through movies and web series?
So I believe that movies and web series, the primary function is not to teach history, but to entertain the public. But yes, there has to be a modicum of accuracy as well as social awareness about what they are trying to present. So yes, minor liberties can be taken while displaying a movie or a TV show, but
Mhm.
but a socially conscious filmmaker would not stray from his path too much, because he has to balance between generating interest and projecting accuracy in the subject.
Okay. Now, applied in our country, so much is being talked about rewriting history. What is your understanding of this particular initiative?
So I believe that historical facts do not change, but yes, perspectives do. And as time goes along, new facts and new perspectives do come into light. I believe that there is a need to focus on all perspectives, since that is the fundamental principle of a democracy, that all voices must be heard. And I believe that history, if you only like it, then it's also wrong. And if you only dislike it, then also wrong. Because as we know that nothing is really black and white, it is all gray and a lot of complexions of it. So as we are taught different perspectives and different ideas, it only enriches our understanding as well as
Mhm.
improves our cognitive status.
Okay. So we also sometimes hear what is called history from below. Did it ever occur to you what it is like, and do you have any idea about what it is all about?
So history from below, normally history when it is taught from the point of view of the rulers and the conquerors,
Mhm.
because earlier they were the main people who commissioned writings of history. But history from below is history from the perspective of the commoners. The earliest example was seen in India as a part of the Marxist historians, who wrote about British rule not as its effect on the political status, but on the lives of the common people. I believe that yes, it is very important to consider the lives of the common people as far as history is concerned, because they form the majority chunk, or the 98%, as we like to call it. And I think it is a positive measure to look at history in a new light and from a new perspective when we talk about history from below.
See, there's also talk that the kind of initiatives or measures that are being taken are branded as saffronizing history in our country. Yeah. Do you have any view on that?
So I believe that history, when it glorifies one and vilifies the other, I think that is wrong.
Mhm.
Although yes, vilification in some aspects, for example, in the case of Nazism, is important, but in a broader sense, I think we have to understand and appreciate the gray nature of history. As far as saffronization is concerned, I see it also as a different perspective of reading and writing history. But
Mhm.
yes, if facts are changed or facts are diluted, or different or unimportant things are given more importance, I think that would be incorrect from a student's as well as a historian's point of view.
Okay. So, if I understood you right, there's nothing like saffronizing history as such that is taking place. It's mere apprehension or imagination of a certain section of people or maybe certain section of academics. Am I right?
Sir, I believe that if there is dilution of facts or misrepresentation of facts, then yes, I think it is wrong. If that is being done, I think it is in poor interest and in poor taste. But yes, if it's a different perspective, we can always talk about it and come to a final conclusion and a consensus.
Now, since you are a doctor, I wish to know from you, see how you can, as a policy maker or advisor in the capacity of a civil servant, what policy initiatives would you suggest to the political leadership to improve access to Medicare to the masses at a very affordable rate?
So the first thing I would do as a policymaker is extol that the percentage
No,
of
you won't be
GDP
a
that
policy maker. Please be sure about that. You will only advise the policy maker.
yes, sir, I
Yes,
would
please go
advise
on.
that the percentage of GDP that is spent on health should be increased
Okay.
from the current 2.1 to at least 2.5. That would be
Mhm.
number one.
Okay.
Secondly, I would like to extol that in matters like health,
Mhm.
participation of central, state, as well as local self governments is very important, and the coordination is essential for achievement of health for all.
Mhm.
Also, I would like to uh, bring about a situation where big hospitals, larger hospitals, are connected with smaller hospitals and community health centers, so that there is a proper referral system. Also, there is an exchange of resources. I would also like to formulate policies which increase the spread and the penetration of health insurance, and providing of easier health insurance products at a cheaper pace and easier to understand for the common people.
Yeah, so I mean, recently it is been talked that the out-of-pocket expenses of our masses when it comes to accessing healthcare, the percentage is very high when compared to the global norm. So, what can be done according to you?
So the percentage currently is 48%, and we have to acknowledge that it has come down from 67% 5 years ago to 48% today.
Okay.
So yes, that is an improvement. But yes, I believe that still this is too much for the common man to bear, and way over the global norms. Insofar as correcting that, I think we need an expansion of the Ayushman Bharat scheme. We need for promotion of generic medicines, a control in diagnostic prices of diagnostics and treatments, controlling surgical expenditures, and improving the local and the hyperlocal health services like Saksham Anganwadis and the Mohalla Clinic scheme.
Okay. Now, are you currently employed in a government hospital or in a private hospital?
Sir, I'm currently pursuing my MD in anesthesiology from UCMS and GTB Hospital.
Okay. So you never worked in any government hospital or even a private hospital?
Sir, I have always worked in a government hospital. I've never worked in a private hospital.
Okay. Now, how do you explain the mushroom growth of corporate hospitals? And if you were to suggest to the political leadership how to contain this, unbridled growth of corporate hospitals at the expense of public health system?
So one of the major reasons for growth of the private sector in healthcare is the 1991 reforms and the eventual investment that came out of it. Also, another reason is that in India, MBBS seats as well as MD and MS seats have been increasing for a while, but the number of vacancies in government hospitals are not increasing. So a lot of these doctors do actually go to the private setup to practice. I personally do not feel that there is a need to control this growth, because this growth also has some benefits like medical tourism as well as new technologies that come in. But yes, I agree that the malpractices and the overcharging that is done currently needs to be controlled. For that, the government has to work with bodies like NMC and the Indian Medical Association to form out strategies where regulation is not seen as control and not seen as a continuation of the license Raj.
Yeah. Perhaps you are also suggesting that the doctor-patient ratio also, the issue is also addressed.
So yes, I believe that it is not an absolute ratio that is of much concern right now, but rather the distribution of doctors primarily in urban and semi-urban areas that is an issue. Because the doctor-patient ratio has come down to 1:800 according to government statistics when we also include Ayush doctors in it. But yes, a reality is that only 20% of the specialists work in rural areas, whereas 67% of the population lives in them. So I think that is more of a concern.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Yeah, PULKIT.
Morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning. Now, you're a Delhi guy totally.
Yes, sir.
Your mother comes from West Delhi and your father from North Delhi. So, if I want to know what are the unique features of North and West Delhi, can you describe and explain to me?
So, especially of West Delhi, where my mother comes from, is known for its different dialect and a different culture as well. It is also known for different foodstuffs, where a lot of combination foods like tandoori momos have actually been derived from West Delhi culture. From a North Delhi point of view, we have seen that North Delhi is a more subdued part of the city, where people are not as lavish or as outgoing as West Delhi people are.
There are not much of historical presence or sites in these two parts of Delhi.
Sir, North Delhi has a long history to it since medieval and even before that. we have seen that the Grand Trunk Road, which was Uttarapath in ancient India, passes through North Delhi, and it was built by Chandragupta Maurya. West Delhi was settled after independence, and it is a rather new manifestation of the expansion of Delhi. So a lot of history is not attached with West Delhi as per se, but North Delhi, yes, it has a does have a historical importance.
Okay. Do you, since you watch a lot of movies on history and are a keen observer, do you think you can take any aspect of one of these regions and make a movie and use it to promote anything in specific that will be useful for the public?
So yes, I believe that North Delhi in particular has a long history of intermingling of cultures. We see that there are a lot of medieval churches, medieval mosques, as well as the Hindu area, which also settled in medieval times. It also has the districts of Chandni Chowk that gained prominence in Mughal times. And also, it also includes places of worship, including churches, as well as the Grand Trunk Road, which is a part of our ancient civilization. So that is something that we can use.
So you would look at a more secular kind of environment existing in these parts, which you can highlight.
So in these parts, we can highlight there is a Roshnara garden, which was built in medieval India, which is a rather picturesque garden that was made by Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan in honor of his daughter. That is number one. Number two, we also have we also have one museum in the area depicting the history of this area. But otherwise, from a secular point of view, there is not much to go about.
Okay. Now, in the present Indian context, the definition of secularism and then the politics of polarization of religions is quite high, and elections are coming very soon. Is Delhi one of the main places where this is reflective of? And if that is true, how do you think some changes can be brought about so that we somehow manage to save our secular fabric?
Sir, I believe that yes, Delhi has had a long history of coexistence, but recently, as it was seen in the 2020 Northeast Delhi riots, there are still concerns present. I believe that for protection of the sanctity of elections and the will of the electorate, I think there is a need for proper enforcement of the MCC without any complaints or any grounds for bias. And I think if it is enforced in its true sense, I think these incidences can be controlled. Also, I believe that school education needs to be given primacy, because that is the time when a mind can actually be molded. And if secular teachings are given, as well as what the Delhi government calls the Deshbhakti curriculum, which focuses on national integration and national leadership, irrespective of the religious background, I think that is something can be done. The media also has to play an important role in it, where yellow jacket journalism should not be promoted, and true and unbiased journalism.
What is yellow jacket?
Sorry, sir, yellow journalism.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And sir, I believe that in the end, it comes down to the sensibilities of the political leaders as well, because I do not believe that any political leader, no matter which party or group he comes from, would like to see the fabric of the social fabric of India being destroyed, since we are all patriots. And in the end, it comes to their sensibilities as well, that this needs to be preserved for the well-being of our nation and society.
So now you mentioned yellow journalism. Now, what is yellow journalism? What is a pink paper? And what is paid media? What is the difference you see in all this?
The yellow journalism is sensationalization of news that is not to be given much importance, only for ads as well as more revenue. And paid media is that when the media is backed by certain entities which portray certain news which is in their own interest, notwithstanding the interest of the general public.
Mm-hmm. So in the current media scene, do you see fair journalism, or you see more of what you're describing as yellow journalism, paid journalism, or whatever form?
Sir, I believe that as various metrics suggest that the quality of Indian journalism unfortunately has come down, where we do see yellow journalism to some extent, and paid media is I don't think a necessarily incorrect problem, because the replacement of a paid media is a state controlled media, and that is also not what we want. But and after the reforms of 1991, paid media came into, not paid media but private media came into. Yes, I feel that the focus more is on getting ad revenue as well as getting views and not projecting correct news. But yes, we see instances where news media in today's time has also led to people achieving or gaining their rights. For example, as was seen after the Jessica Lal murder case, as well as during the Anna Hazare protest in 2011.
Do you think media role has marginalized in the current context, and therefore, it's no longer qualifying to become the fourth pillar of Indian democracy, is it?
So the role of media cannot be overshadowed in a democracy. And if there is a feeling that TV news media has come down, there are still newspapers as well as independent media houses, for example, online media, and independent journalists are still present who try to bring the accurate picture, and they are gaining more traction as people's trust in media has gained.
So the new media is gaining over the traditional media. That's what you feel.
Yes, sir. So not only because of the type of journalism, but because of spread of digital services as well.
Okay. Now coming to your hobby of watching, or you also play cricket, is it?
Yes, sir.
Now, in the next, I think 6 to 8 weeks, we have this festival, two festivals in India. One is the IPL, and second is the general election. Now, being an avid cricket fan, cricket player, what will you watch? Cricket or politics? Follow.
Sir,
What will you follow, and why?
so I would like to follow both, because IPL only comes for 2 hours a day. So the rest of the day I can follow the elections. And for the period of 8 p.m. to 10:30 p.m., I can devote my time to the IPL as well.
No. Will IPL get impacted by politics or vice versa?
Sir, currently the BCCI has said that it has no plans to shift the IPL abroad in view of the general elections, and we'll be able to provide the adequate and appropriate facilities. So I do not think that it will get much affected.
Finally, in terms of the election funding, there is a major controversy going on around electoral bonds. Now, what is your take on these electoral bonds? Are they good, bad, or should they be continued, or is there any alternative for us?
Sir, I believe that yes, black money in election funding needs to be controlled, but this cannot come at the cost of the right to information and right to freedom of the people. A view that was also held by the apex court of the land. And I believe that yes, there needs to be a synthesis of the two objectives of providing right to information and to curbing black money, and other measures like the central election fund or state funding of elections need to be looked at.
Is there any room for right to privacy in all this, as the two apex chambers, SHM and FICCI, I think went to court seeking privacy for the people who subscribe to these bonds. Is there a scope for this in a democratic setup where public information is necessary?
Sir, I believe that corporate houses are well in their right to demand a right to privacy for political donation, as it is the norm around the world. But I personally believe that that should not come at the cost of misguiding or misleading the common public and their interests to take primacy in a welfare democracy.
Okay. So finally, as a doctor, please tell me what are e-cigarettes? Okay. And what are the pros and cons of these e-cigarettes?
So e-cigarettes are technology advanced versions of normal cigarettes where the I'm so sorry, where the tobacco consumption is decreased to a certain extent and the gases that are inhaled are decreased. The advantages are that number one, it is reusable. Number two, the amount of gases that are inhaled are lesser, and the potential of carcinogenesis at the current state of research is also less. The drawbacks are that currently we do not have any regulation regarding the same. Secondly, we do not have any idea of the long-term effects that it might have because it is a recent invention and has been followed recently. Thirdly, I fear that e-cigarettes might actually promote use of tobacco instead of stopping it and lead more people to take up to e-cigarettes than they do normal cigarettes because of the perceived safety that they have. And that is without any evidence of long-term damage.
So despite a lot of awareness campaigns and advertising, medically doctors showing a lot of ill effects of cigarette smoking, the rate of smoking among youth seems to be still there, or is it also quite high even today?
Sir, it is quite high and I feel it is ever increasing today. So the reasons for that are manifold. One of the reasons is that the actual cigarette and tobacco substances themselves are supposed to promote a habit forming behavior where it is very difficult to leave that habit. Secondly, there is a lot of peer pressure around where to fit in and to fit into a peer group, certain young minds do take up to smoking as well as other consumption of other substances injurious to health. Thirdly, there is also the effect of mass media on our psyche, where heroes and film stars who smoke or drink in movies are celebrated, and so people try to copy their behaviors.
Okay, that was nice talking to you, Pulkit. Okay. Krishnamurthy.
Mr. PULKIT, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Good morning.
Good
Sir.
morning. Acha, what is the controversy between Ramdev and the Supreme Court?
So the controversy is that according to government rules, any advertisement that is misleading to the effect of its product has to be brought on immediately. But Patanjali has been going on making claims which the Supreme Court has itself said that they are faulty claims and misleading claims of curing certain diseases which their products cannot do. And the advertisements have still not been stopped despite repeated warnings and interventions by the Supreme Court. So it has not only scolded Ramdev, but also the government.
What is the future of these bogus claims?
Sir, I feel that such bogus claims should be dealt with absolute certainty and in an extremely punitive way, because in the interest of profit, public health and public welfare cannot be subjugated. I believe that this might mark a precedence where if these ads are not stopped, it might promote other companies as well to undertake certain procedures and make certain false claims in the future, which will eventually lead to a cycle where this problem might get very difficult to control.
Okay. Are we happy when India grows at 7 to 8% of GDP and world grows at 2 to 4% of GDP?
Sir, yes, I think while it is still admirable, I believe it is still admirable that we are growing at such a high rate. But I think the time has come and society has progressed to move on from economic growth as a marker for development. And I believe that per capita incomes as well as other measures of well-being need to be put into focus.
What about the concept of world village? Can our exports be improved when the world is not demanding for it?
Sir, if we, I believe that our exports do have a certain advantage insofar as the variety and the quality and the natural resources that we possess.
Now,
But
when
it
when the world grows at a lesser rate, then the demand for our exports will come down naturally.
Yes, sir. Sir, I also believe that it is not, since every country needs to import, they are always looking for alternatives. If we can position ourselves in a way where we become an exporter of things that are essential to certain countries, and via geopolitical ambitions, geopolitical influences, as well as price control and quality control initiatives, we can position ourselves to improve our export base.
So, don't you think that the entire world should grow on an equal path?
Sir, yes, that would be ideal, but I do not think it is practical at this point.
Okay, good. Inflation is an inevitable nuisance. Please comment.
So, as far as inflation being inevitable is concerned, we have seen that there is an inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment, where a certain degree of inflation, which is controlled, can lead to decrease in unemployment and lead to more jobs. And as far as a nuisance is concerned, it is due to the fact that increasing price of goods and services does put a strain on the pocket of the common man. But it is unlimited inflation is an incentive for producers to produce more goods, and which eventually leads to increase in incomes for the people and increased consumption, which further drives inflation.
So, what is your conclusion?
Sir, I believe that if inflation, slight inflation is necessary and helpful, but it should be controlled to a point where it does not harm the pocket of the common man and the underprivileged.
Okay, okay. What is the controversy going on over Citizenship Amendment Act?
So the controversy is that number one, it excludes one particular religion from the people of belonging to such religions who can get fast track citizenship. Secondly, it names certain countries that might cause geopolitical disturbances. Thirdly, in the rules that have been presented, the proof regarding persecution is not required, and you only need to demonstrate that you belong to a certain religion and belong to a certain country.
But Indian government is having a list of people who have been religiously persecuted, and in that list, Muslims are not included. And because Muslims can be accommodated either in Afghanistan, Pakistan, or Myanmar. So Bangladesh, sorry. So what is wrong in accommodating non-Muslims in India by giving citizenship?
Sir, I believe that the injustice that has been done to minorities in these three countries is quite dire. And I believe that this is a specific legislation to address a very specific problem, and it is not a broad policy, as also the government has said, because India has always been a safe haven for everyone, and we must invite people from other nations who feel persecuted to us, because that is our moral responsibility and improves our standing as a global player. But yes, I believe that this should not create a precedent that it is okay to exclude certain groups, and this should not become an overarching policy, but rather a very specific measure for addressing a specific situation.
Is it not right to ensure citizenship to those who have been persecuted religiously, religious persecution?
Sir, yes, I believe it is India's responsibility as a nation and as a welfare state and as a responsible power to give certain rights to people who feel persecuted in their own countries. And yes, I would also like to add that it is only fast tracking of citizenship. Number two, nobody is being stripped away from his or her citizenship. And thirdly, even Muslims from these countries who reside in India can get citizenship by the normal way. They are not being disenfranchised or they are not being denied citizenship. It is just fast tracking of citizenship for a certain section of people.
So what is the future of the CAA?
So currently the matter is sub judice. The Supreme Court has not outlawed it or stopped its implementation, but it has asked for the government's comments. And I think in the meantime, the CAA will be in continuation, and a definitive stance will only be taken after the comments of this apex court.
So is it proper to hold it till the election is over, or should it be hurriedly implemented before the elections?
Sir, I believe, yes, that there has been a delay in framing the rules, but the reasons for that are currently not in public domain. So I think that it might seem suspicious that it is being done in spite of elections, but I would argue that it has been coming for some time and over 4 years. And if the government has delayed in forming the rules, there might have been some compelling reasons for it to do so, and certain safeguards that were to be put in place for.
Okay. So is India in a position to tap demographic dividend or wasting it when we are not in sufficient employment opportunities?
So we are in a position to tap it because we have seen that in the last few years there has been a focus on skilling, upskilling, reskilling, as well as fostering industry academia linkages to provide market ready youth and industry ready youth. But yes, I think that there needs to be more focus on this, because we cannot let our dividend go waste, because we would not get such a golden chance in the future. And I think that we should also focus on 21st century skills, for example, coding, graphic designing, and other AI based skills, to not only improve our chances of developing in a fractured world, but also to provide meaningful and valuable employment to the youth.
Well, thank you, Pulkit.
Yes, Dr. Pulkit, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, now that is the end of the SMOC personality test. We have taken about 50 minutes. As you know, UPSC takes about 25-30 minutes on an average. Now you are appearing for the personality test for the second time before UPSC, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
How many marks did you get in the first attempt?
So 170.
Oh, good. I think you have a potential to get much more, because by and large, I see that you have demonstrated your knowledge and your analytical abilities while addressing most of the questions. Now, this is going to be a session to give you feedback and essentially to constructively criticize you. If at all there are some areas where you need to improve, perhaps you can think of improving between now and the personality test date. I'll give my feedback first, and others will also give later. At the end of it, if you have any questions or clarifications, you may seek. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, as I said, I find you to be very, confident. You are very well informed, and your analysis is good. Your understanding of various variety of issues is good. You're also using keywords and phrases while answering the questions. That's very satisfactory. Except once or twice, maybe when the question of Supreme Court calling Baba Ramdev, you also should have used the 2 or 3 words which are very relevant in this case, the contempt case, and the drugs act, that magic remedies or drugs act, which is objectionable advertisements and violation of that. That would have made your answer much more comprehensive, and that is where you get instead of 180, maybe 200, 210. But by and large, you covered, actually, you gave very comprehensive answers. I don't have much to suggest to you. I think you be what you are. I'm sure you will do extremely well this time and get a good rank. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Reddy garu.
Pulkit,
Yes, sir.
can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I could see your answers are generally logical and also to the point. And also I can see you are able to give a very plausible answers for the situations, 2 situations I gave. That is a correct approach, actually. Human life is more important. Saving human life is more important than anything else in the life. That speaks a lot, in fact. So I could see a lot of potential, and keep it up, and all the best.
Thank you, sir.
So, Dr. Pulkit, I must say, Your responses have been very clinical. It seemed, maybe because of the technology that we are using, it seemed to me as if you are reading from a text which is already there in front of you.
No, sir.
I know. I'm just saying this. It's merely an appearance, and also the way you delivered the content. It seemed as if you're almost reading news on the TV. Okay, there could be a little more life into what the way you responded to questions. Okay, a little more humanistic way of responding. Number one. So,
So
which
can you
means
please repeat the point? I
yeah,
didn't catch that.
yeah. It seemed almost like you are reading news on the TV.
Robo.
Robo-like, and there is practically that the human touch or emotion which is required to respond to a particular question, depending on the nature of the question. That was not there, and so it was almost like reading a report for the benefit of viewers, right? So you may infuse a little bit of life and a bit of animation and all that into your responses. Okay, number one. Anyway, that may be a very minor aspect of your personality test today. Nevertheless, I have a feeling that your delivery, your content is good. Your structuring of the answers, or rather responses, is good. And as for the delivery, I told you, if you can make it a little more, interesting and as if it was we were in a conversation mode. If you could adopt that approach, it will make it more lively.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's part. And then on the issues that I have posed to you, probably on this question of your latest web series history episode or series that you have seen, it could have been a little shorter. It was a bit lengthier. You could have, in the first place, conveyed the main actors and their characteristics and all that. And if at all the listener was interested in actual characters and all that, probably you could have dwelt at a little bit more lengthier. Okay. So first the characteristics and what was being conveyed through that episode, you could have done it in a more crisper manner. Okay, number one. Number two, you see these historical movies, as you rightly said, one can't really teach history through movies or such web series. But then sometimes they tend to take a lot of liberties in the guise of creative activity. So there is bound to be a certain kind of sometimes romanticism and sometimes a bit of euphoria or sometimes distortions. These things are possible. So one can't really learn, but get broadly a hang of what history is all about. Okay, probably that should have come through in your response. So you may pay attention to that aspect. Number one. Secondly, what is that we learn from the history in the Indian context? Your response was more contemporary than history in a historical sense. I would have really loved to hear you say about many of the things such as the caste system, the inequalities, okay, the relative impoverishment of Indian society due to colonial past and all that, and then how we are actually applying history in the way we are now pursuing our affirmative action in our country
Hmm.
through to, constitutional measures. That would have really elevated your answer. You were merely drawing in, references to the world wars, alignment, geopolitics and all that, which is relatively more recent in a historical sense. Because today we claim to be, one of the longest surviving civilizations. Of 5,000 to 6,000 are now, today they are stretching even to 7,000 years. So from a historical perspective, if you look at it, there are many achievements in the past, but at the same time, there are also many aberrations, civilizational aberrations, societal aberrations and all that. And now how that we are trying to address those issues, in a legal and a constitutional framework through affirmative actions and, progressive welfare legislations. I think that should be the takeaway from the history, rather than merely confining to a few wars here and there, aligning with a few countries and all that. So in that sense, the response was a little, I should say, deficient. So if you can take that historical, perspective, then the answer would have been more comprehensive, and it would have really conveyed that you have really understood the purpose of the sense of history.
Yes.
Okay. So because we are talking about history, it is about time. So the farther you go back in time, the better. Because as you know, E.H. Carr says very clearly, history is a continuum. The past flows into the present, and the present, flows into the future, right? So, but otherwise, as I said, your responses have been very good. The content is good. The structuring is also good, but sometimes you may have to pay attention to the length of your response, and try and organize in such a way that the most important thing is conveyed in the first place, and then the details follow. Should there be a further probing?
Yes.
Otherwise, you leave it at that, and then the whole thing is taken care, right? So I'm sure you have a great potential to surpass your previous score. I think you should start working on these inputs that you are getting now.
Yes.
I'm sure certainly you will score much higher marks this time. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Pulkit, I think I found you very articulate and very well informed in the issues we discussed, which is very positive. The only point I would like to make is that you tended to be a bit opinionated unwarrantedly on media, on elections, and the coming political scenario. Perhaps you jumped, you said the yellow jacket. Yellow journalism is just part of journalism. You put the entire media in a jacket and said that everybody seems to be practicing yellow journalism, and that the media is completely, not doing its role. Perhaps I think that could be your opinion, but unwarrantedly, I don't think you should jump into that conclusion, because if you look at the pressures under which the media works in India, we don't rank very high in freedom of the press globally also. So the profession of journalism is under tremendous strain or pressure is something that you should recognize. The second thing is the ownership of the media has dramatically changed. And today, I think 75 to 80% of all media is owned by corporates or political, owners. Therefore, the change in the role of media that you are seeing, especially the television and newspaper. However, there are, as you also pointed out, independent voices and people who are making a strident criticism of the government, which makes some or gives some hope in democracy for us. So please be a bit wary on getting into an opinion unwarrantedly, and give both sides of what is happening. After all, media is now an enterprise of people. It's another profession and another business as it's now turning out to be. The second thing is on, I think, elections also. I think please read up on, the funding of elections, on whether electoral bonds is the best, or what are the issues that have cropped up in the recent judgment of the Supreme Court, and how the reactions to the judgment are coming out. So you will be well prepared to answer a lot of questions. I wish you all the very best.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Pulkit, I find your answers are very balanced, and you are convergent with the current affairs. And I'm sure that this time your score will definitely increase. You have enough knowledge, and articulation was very good. I wish you good success. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Dr. Bajaj, Pulkit Bajaj, any doubts, clarifications you want to seek, please do so.
Sir, regarding controversial questions, should I give both sides and then take a middle path? Or
Yes,
should
yes, you did actually do so when you talked about e-cigarettes. You presented both the views. Okay, so any controversies, you don't give your opinion unnecessarily. You give the arguments pro and con, and then leave it. And if you are asked to give your opinion, yeah, you may do so.
Thank you so much, sir.
Good. Okay, then all the very best. Take
Thank you,
care.
sir.
God bless
Thank
you.
you, sir. Thank you, sir.